Alright, I thought I would do a quick video on how I test my water for both my fish, and if this was No Name's tank, which it's not, it's a betta tank at my friend's house, but if it was No Name's tank, this would also be the water going into my orchids and other houseplants. So, this is partly why I don't own a TDS meters, because I get a little more detail out of this. Never found the TDS meter absolutely necessary. Get more information out of this. TDS meter will give me these three in total dissolved solids, but it'll just give a number of all three of them mixed up. Not individual information on each. Not individual information on anything. It's just a number of everything that's in your water. So, over here on the far left, we have pH. Most plant growers test that with a pH pin. And a pH pin in this water would give somewhere around a pH of 6. Somewhere in that range. Okay, so pH pin would help in this case, because you would know, 6 point what. Over here, we've got the ammonia test. It tests yellow. It is stage yellow for the most part, thankfully. So that says there is very little ammonia in the betta's water. Very good. So over here, you might remember my last video, we talked about nitrous amonis. Well, this is what nitrous amonis's byproduct looks like. At least if there's not very much of the byproduct. That is a nice, clear, light blue. Very good. It says there's very little nitrites in the water. And then we get over here to this one that's not so great. This one is sort of the last one in the lineup. We talked about Nitrobacter. This is Nitrobacter's byproduct of nitrate. And this is a little bit high. I don't like this. This says I need to do a water change. So, a water change will happen, because there's not that third mysterious bacteria in the average aquarium to deal with this. So it's going to get a little high. It's higher than it should be, but it's going to get a little high because of the missing bacteria. We have to do water changes to supplement that missing bacteria that does not like to live in the typical aquarium. There's way too much oxygen. Okay, so that's how I live without a TDS pin. I'm going to be getting one because they do have their place, but they don't give any detailed information. So I've got these tests. Because of this project I'm working on, I'm going to be looking at getting phosphate test, maybe testing for some calcium. I believe a magnesium test exists. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get all these other tests for freshwater or not, because it's salt water that we care about, things like calcium. Very good for corals. So that's a quick rundown on how I check my water to see if it's good for not only my fish, but my plants as well. And for both, I would like this last one to be a bit lighter. It's too dark. So I'm going to get to the water change. Of course, after reviewing the footage, I realized what I left out. The main thing that got left out is if you go to any aquarium channel, most of them have either this testing or they talk about the nitrogen cycle. But if this testing is involved, you've got your 4 tests, but there's a chart to read these tests. Like, okay, this is a light yellow on the ammonia. What does that mean? If you're doing this test for the first time, you don't necessarily know that that reads very little ammonia, under 0.25 parts per million. I believe it goes 0.25, 0.50, 1.0. And that's the chart. It'll get darker and darker. In this case of ammonia, it'll start to turn green. And it'll be kind of a light green to begin with and go into a kind of like a pine green, a deep forest green. And the numbers will all be listed beside or under, probably under or over the color. But I lost mine. Shows just how important that is to me. I lost it. Over here, if I can focus on these 2 test files, the one on the left is older. That blurry image is of a fish doctor. It's a little design of a fish dressed up as a doctor. And you can see the 5mm line is pretty thick. That's an old test tube. Beside it is a newer one. This is the API. Yeah, I had to look at the actual test tube. An API Master Test Kit test tube. They both are. But the one on the right is a more modern design. There is no fish character of any kind. It just says API. And the line for 5mm, because that's, according to the instructions, you need 5mm. So it gives you a line at 5mm, milliliters of water, because when you look at the instructions, it'll give you, however many drops. And it does not want to focus on the words or the numbers, but it'll give you the number of drops. This, of course, is a in date. I believe they've got an expiration date of about 2 years. This one's in date. There's older ones. It shows how long I've been doing this. You can find older ones that don't have that red thumb stop that you got to get out of the way to unlock it. Doesn't exist on the older ones. And that is where these older test tubes came from. It's one of my older kits. So the test tube is important because you can't test your liquids in midair. So the test tube is important. The test itself is important. The little chart with all the numbers, well, that's why your local water board will say that these are inaccurate. And my local water board has pointed that out, because I called them up once to ask them why there is so much ammonia in my tap water. This is a little bit difficult, but it's yellow. Our local tap water comes out with a visible green color, meaning there's ammonia of one form or the other, either ammonia or ammonium, in our tap water. Because of my fish, I don't drink my tap water. I drink distilled, bottled water. Now, my fish get the tap water, but I don't drink it. Okay? None of this bacteria is in our drinking water, and I don't want to drink the bacteria. I don't want to drink nitrous monas and nitrobacter. But they're in my aquarium to deal with the ammonia in the tap water. And they basically remove the ammonia in my tap water. Really disgusting. But it is what it is. I get a detectable amount of ammonia, so I choose not to drink the city water. But the chart, I do not find very important. You know, when this yellow color turns green, that's bad. When this blue color gets darker, goes into a purple if it's really bad, you know, that's bad. When this one goes from yellow into this red color, it'll go yellow, kind of an orange, and then a red, that's bad. I don't need a chart to give me exact numbers, which are more than likely off, to tell me when it's bad. I just go by the colors. So, yeah, I lost the chart. It's not sacred to me. I don't need it. But I've been doing this for, I don't know, my old common Oscar died at 10 years old. So I've been using this particular test for 10 plus years. All right. Talk to you next time.